when that was. That little red box to your life.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good afternoon. This is Senate Committee on Institutions on Friday, January 10th, and this is our organizational meeting. So let's go around and introduce ourselves.
Senator Sam Douglas from Orleans.
Senator Ross Nichols from Essex.
Senator Joe Major from Windsor. Senator Rob Plunkett from Benton.
Linda Lehman, committee assistant.
And Senator Wendy Harrison from Wyndham. And so what we're going to talk about first is just the process of the committee generally. You're probably aware that most of the work of the Senate and of the House is done in committees. So the committee process is critical. Process is as important as the product, in my opinion, in government work. We need to be inclusive and clear. Just to get the best work done. Well, the way that it works, and you may have seen this in your morning committees, we have witnesses come in, and that's how we officially get our information is through witnesses. And the purpose of the witnesses is to get information from them. So we need to be respectful of the witnesses. Obviously, we can ask questions. If you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll recognize you so that we have an orderly process. Because a lot of folks listen to this just with the audio. They don't know who's talking. We don't want to talk over each other. And the witnesses will be down there. They'll identify themselves. At the beginning of each meeting, we'll identify ourselves so that folks know. We want to minimize speechifying, as they say, in the witness processes, because we'll have plenty of time to discuss and give our opinions about whatever the topic is at another time. But what we want when we have a witness is to get all of the information that we can from that person. And you'll see some witnesses many times. So don't think that if you miss something or if you think about something after the meeting, we can find a way to find that information. Any questions on that? Just on the process. We will have breaks. Right now we're scheduling them at an hour and a half after the start, and we will start at 1 and end at.
Well, it depends on the day.
Right. Oh, right. Okay.
So our Tuesdays will start at 1 because you have the floor in the morning. On Wednesday and Thursday, the floor is at 1. So you'll be coming here, 15 minutes after the floor?
That's what we've done.
Okay. And then Friday, the floor is at 11:30. So you're usually done by 1 and we meet at 1.
So we'll go back to 1. Okay, thank you. All right, so then just want to talk about the topics. Institutions is obviously the name of this committee, and the way that we work on institutions is we work on the capital bill, and the capital bill is a financial construct, and it's a 2-year bill. And it is for capital projects. So those are projects that have a long lifespan. Technically, it can be 5 years and it can be capital, but ours are typically at least 10 years, many 30 years. And regarding education, that'll be a conversation because the state 20 years ago, maybe did school funding, but hasn't done it since then.
Yeah.
So I know that is something that will be discussed this session, is having capital funding. So that would be buildings and things like that. So that likely will be a part of our discussion. And then other things are buildings, prisons, as as many of you know, there's a new women's prison that's being designed and cited. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but we talked about a lot about that in our meetings last year. So that's in our jurisdiction. The Judiciary Committee has jurisdiction over the operations of the corrections facilities, and we have jurisdiction over the buildings, but they do overlap. So we'll coordinate with that committee. We have water sewer infrastructure. We have this building is in our jurisdiction. The fairs, the state fairs, the fair buildings are in our jurisdiction. Fish hatcheries, Salisbury Fish Hatchery, we talked a lot about that last year. We'll be receiving a report, and we should probably get that report on our website if it's not already. The Salisbury Fish Hatchery. So I talked a lot about that. I learned a lot.
We did. Yeah.
So that'll be something that we work on. Any questions or comments?
Madam
on
Chair,
that?
can I help a little bit on the capital bill?
Please.
So the capital bill is a 2-year bill. And you're gonna see 2 sets of numbers, basically. You're gonna see more than that, but the numbers that are very important to us are 2 sets of numbers. It comes from the governors, it's governors recommend. And you're gonna see governors recommend. And so the first part of the bill, the first year of the bill, we're gonna go down through the first section of the bill. You're gonna see the dollars, and it's plug and play, basically, a lot of it. We don't get a chance to add a lot of dollars. If you take from here, you gotta make it match over here. And so we get through all that stuff, and it's a lot of stuff. It really, as the chair has said, it's a ton of stuff. The second part of the bill, we'll see next year, it's more of a truing up. It's almost like a budget balance type of bill. So there'll be taking and moving and all of that. So yeah, so it's a 2-year process bill. We'll handle the first part of it this year, and then the next year it's going to be the balancing act of making all the dollars go. And as the chair correctly said, there's going to be. I think when it was going on this year, we have I think something called CDAC, which is the people that tell us how much money that we're going to get to spend. And but they have warned us that there was going to probably be even more money dumped into that as we try to figure out what part of school construction that we might look at and stuff. So typically we handle about $202 million a biennium. And then sometimes it's been more than that. But when you start talking about, as what I had alluded to with the chair, when we got $17 million of seed monies, that actually unleashed again like $260 million worth of dollars that we were responsible for to appropriate. So it all depends on where it is. So a lot of moving parts, really fun committee. And thank you, Madam.
Yeah, thank you. It is a fun committee. And what we'll do is I'll get the spreadsheets from last year so that you can just see the format, because we won't get it as Senator Engel said in another couple of weeks. But I think it would be helpful for you to see the format and just all of the items that are on the spreadsheet. So it'll be the last 2 years. And this coming week, what I'd like to have is someone, hopefully the treasurer will come and explain the CDAC, that's a committee that determines what the appropriate amount of total spending in the capital bill is. And they base that on economic forecasts and keeping our credit score high, because Vermont has one of the highest credit scores in the country. I was really impressed to learn that in this committee, which makes our borrowing less expensive. And the treasurer is the agency that takes care of the borrowing of the state, unlike the bond bank, who takes care of the borrowing of towns. So I think that would be a helpful thing to have initially. And then let me go back a little bit to our jurisdiction, because you have heard, I'm sure, that we talked about it, the IT information technology is now in the jurisdiction of this committee. we need to determine exactly how we define, IT, because it could be on, everything is done with IT now, so, I definitely see, data privacy, because there's a bill that's gonna come again. It was similar to, I expect it to be similar to legislation that was, looked at and passed until it was vetoed, and we didn't override the veto. So it would encompass that legislation. That was, consumer protection and, protection of kids. It actually was a kids code component of that bill, or there was at least last year. I haven't seen the new bill. Then there's internal IT of the state, like the labor department has been upgrading its system for years. And so, there needs to be oversight, from the legislature. There is a joint information technology oversight committee, and that committee, made some recommendations. If you're interested, you can watch their last meeting, their most recent meeting, because the topic was, what would you recommend to the incoming legislature that they look at? So that's really helpful, and I'd like to get a member of that committee, if possible, in here next week, so that we can start to consider what kinds of things we want to do. I'll also next week, I'd like to get Ledge Council. You're familiar already, right? With Legislative Council for the public. Those are the attorneys who work for both the House and the Senate, which is really helpful. And they help us obviously with our work, because we need to do it properly. And then we also have fiscal, folks, fiscal staff. And so I'd like to get the fiscal person in next week also. And the other thing I'd like to do again, or do next week, is buildings and grounds. That BGS is the agency that we work a lot with, because they're in charge of the buildings and grounds and courthouses in this building. And they have new leadership, and so I'd like to get that leadership, that there's a new commissioner, get her in here and her staff, and so they can introduce themselves to you. And so that's probably enough for next week, but if you have ideas, and anytime if you have ideas about either specific witnesses in terms of people or functions, let me know. Yes.
The capital bill originates over in the House. So lots of times what we're gonna be doing, if Madam Chair chooses to go that way, is that we basically, once we get reports back of who they talked to on that side. And so then we'll bring them over here as well, so that information that they've shared over there is fresh, and then we can kind of keep track of where they're going. And the Madam Chair will have folks in here that will keep it, just keep us on page about where they're at and where the problems might be, so that we're not hearing for the first time months later. And again, the IT component, I think, is going to plug up a lot of the holes that we didn't have. I mean, we had lots of times where we were really kind of scrounging for people to come in here to fill our day out, because we just didn't have anything to do until that bill came over. But we did, and we made it good. But I think one of the biggest things that I would say as well, as being just a past committee member on here, is that you're going to see a lot of information. You're going to say, holy cow, I don't know if I'm ever going to figure this all out, but we do. We do a good job with it.
And we have good staff.
We have great staff. Yeah.
Thank you. And we'll also have joint meetings probably, or a few of them. We had some of those. I was just speaking with Representative Emmons about that, and we might have joint meetings just so that we're in the room. We usually go to their room because they have a bigger room.
Madam Chair, does our IT cover broadband?
We haven't decided that yet. That hasn't been decided. So that's important to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. The full scope would be like all radio communication and telecom and broadband. The external, those some of those are utilities.
Yeah.
So we don't regulate utilities. I mean, I don't think that, I mean, we have a whole separate section. It's not even the legislature. I mean, we have utility regulatory agencies. But we write the laws, the legislature. So it could just be a huge scope. So I think it's just really careful. It's really important that we have very deliberate conversations about that and get advice from others about where to start.
Yeah.
Because we just need to be effective as we take on this new role. What else? Field trips. I like field trips, getting out into the world.
My parents have to like sign.
Oh, I don't know. How would I? I don't think so. Well, we'll be careful. We're covered by insurance. But if you have any ideas of places that you'd like to see, I mean, because our function is there's geographic aspects to that. Like the fish hatchery would be great if it weren't winter. I don't know, maybe it's okay to go in winter. I would love to see that. But you don't have to say it now, but we can do field trips.
Aruba, is that?
I don't think that's in our jurisdiction. Yeah, economic
right.
development actually has some international components. Yeah, we don't yet. All right, well, that's what I wanted to share, but is there anything you're wondering about? Or do you know how to get to our website? You probably do, hopefully our page, right?
As a committee, will you be mostly working off of your computers or would you like printed copies of things?
Good question.
I like printed.
I would agree as well.
Okay, for longer documents that people bring in,
Well, next week we'll for sure give printed spreadsheets because they're large spreadsheets and it's just
okay, so I'll just plan to print anything, and if it seems like it's too long, too much paper, I'll refer it to you.
So I'd say anything over 5 pages is fine to be electronic for me, but
Okay.
if it could be in print, I prefer in print, but I also
Right.
want to save the trees.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I am like the idea, Madam Chair, as far as to get those spreadsheets, to give everybody an idea on how it goes. It just gives you a whole nother perspective about how much information you're gonna be. It's what makes it a committee fun, is that you just so much stuff. You're just not one topic, you're everything. And
right.
so to have that,
Right, it'll be last year, so it won't be the current
Right.
one, but
Right.
you'll see what
we
we
last
did.
year, you see a lot of what we cover. You'd be amazed on how much we cover. But basically, every state building is under our purview. And
And you'll have a binder too. We'll give you a big binder that'll have all of
The governor
The
gives you
spreadsheets.
his, don't you get that from BGS, the original proposals
yes,
in a binder?
yes. I don't know if it's BJS who gives it to us, but somebody definitely gives it to us.
you had a couple binders come.
Right, and they actually update it for us too, if you leave it. And so you each have a drawer and you can put things in your drawer. And then there's a drawer in front of you, and then we have file drawers too. So you can each have a file drawer.
is it also under our purview to expand legislative parking here at the state house?
Oh, that's funny.
Well, to be fair about it, if
Searching for a spot.
it comes true, it would be under our purview.
Interesting. Well, hopefully we won't have to deal with parking. Parking is a huge issue just generally, but the last 2 days have been much more, it's much harder to find parking these last couple of days.
I was 35 minutes early. I thought I'd be fine and not even close. It's like 20 minutes searching for a spot.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple up there too, and
I ended up parking.
I can talk to you offline.
Vermont Conservation Voters and I parked all the way down there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your persistence. Well, we can all A fair amount of people don't even have cars here. They'll get a ride or something and stay local. Anything else?
Nothing I know of right now.
Okay.
I'll learn how to be a vice chair. No.
We'll learn together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll have weekly meetings with with the legislative assistant, and you'll be invited to those. So we'll figure out our schedules. Okay. Well, good. Well, thank you all.
Thank you,
very
Madam
much.
Chair.
And
Good first meeting.
we'll have fun.
We will have fun.